So this is the July 2020 Tableau user group out of Tucson. There's a picture of our beautiful city. For those that are local, you know what this looks like. For those that are not and are joining us, it's a beautiful place, perhaps not in the summer, but otherwise good place to come visit. If you are ever in town, feel free to ping me or any of the other Nicole, Nathalia, and we'd love to meet up. So that's Tucson. This is the Tucson virtual user group. Welcome. Again, housekeeping, you're muted. We're going to use the Q&A section. So if you have a question for any of the presenters, either Sarah or Phil, Kathy, or Nathalia, there's a Q&A section in your Zoom. You can just go ahead and enter a question, and we will do our best to get to all of those after the presentations are done. During the meeting, you can feel free to use the chat for comments, dialogue. Again, this will be recorded and made available via the Tableau YouTube channel. So here's an agenda. We're going to do some introductions. We have some community announcements. We're going to do a Kahoot quiz for excellent prizes. What are we going to be giving away this time, Nicole? Apple Watches, headphones, things like that? No, okay. Silence is a no, I take it. So why you should participate in IronViz. So Sarah Bartlett, Tableau Zen Master, is going to be chiming in all the way from London, England, I believe. Sarah, did I get that right?
Yeah, just outside of London, yeah.
Just outside of London. And she has an excellent presentation for us on IronViz. Very timely, since the deadline is quickly approaching. And then we have a panel of local speakers, local presenters, doing a 10-minute Tableau tips and tricks. Some interesting things here, things that hopefully take and apply to whatever we're doing in our own context. Total meeting time will be roughly an hour and a half. We'll conclude with some wrap up and just some announcements on future meetings. All right, so Tucson Tug leadership team. This was the slide that we did our joint meeting with the Phoenix group. So myself and Nicole have been running the meetings over the last, I'd say, about a year. We were looking for additional members to join the leadership council, leadership team. And this past month, Nathalia Garay Castillo has jumped in. So obviously we want to welcome Nathalia. Looking forward to working with her to continue to sort of build out this Tableau community here locally and beyond. Thank you and welcome, Nathalia. All right, community announcements. Tableau recently announced a new selection of Tableau featured authors. These are people that you can find out on Tableau Public. Follow them. They're doing some very creative, innovative work. Just some people, if you're ever out on Tableau Public, you're looking for inspiration or new design ideas or techniques, you can certainly start with these folks here. All right, the Speaker Bureau program. So Tableau is launching this to sort of try and get some speakers for their reimagined events. So much like you would apply to present at the Tableau conference, this is a similar process where you're applying to speak at some of the upcoming virtual events. You fill out an application, basically tell them what you want to present on, and you get to go through that process. And if you're selected, you get a speaking coach, it sounds like, and obviously you get to geek out on data and learn and meet other people in the process. So the deadline for that is upcoming. It's July 31st. If you're interested in doing that, I'd highly recommend submitting. It'll undoubtedly be a great experience. IronViz, so we'll hear about that from Sarah today. Pretty much, I believe, the biggest data visualization contest in the world. I love this quote from Ken Flurlage because it, I think, speaks to really the main purpose of the competition. It's not so much winning, it's just a process of challenging yourself, learning in the process and developing your skills. So I'm excited to hear what Sarah has to say to us about that today. We're about a week out. I haven't started yet, but I fully intend on submitting this year as well. And yeah, how cool would it be to get a few submissions from Tucson? Data Kids. So this is something that Tableau rolled out about a month or 2 or maybe 3 ago, a way to increase data fluency and literacy at sort of a younger elementary school age. These are activities that you can do with your kids to help get them started in data analysis and data visualization. A great thing to do to build those skills at a young age. So I have some links. You can go and learn more about the program here. And yeah. So Certifiably Tableau month. So for every exam sold in July, Tableau is going to be donating an exam to help advance equity with data. 10% off desktop certified associate and 10% off server certified associate exams through July. So it's a great way to add some skills to your tool belt, toolkit, get recognized for some of the skills that you have. And yeah, great opportunity to do so at a discount this month as well. So the Tableau Talent Finder, this was produced by Mark Connolly in the community. It's meant to be a resource for people who have been impacted by COVID, either furloughed or laid off. So what this is basically, I believe, a Google Sheet of people who have entered their names, as well as some of their skills, certifications, et cetera. Anybody looking to hire Tableau talent can go to this resource and look through the list to see if there's a potential match. Where people have reached out to me, I've pointed them to this resource to find good people who are looking for work who have Tableau skills. So if you haven't checked it out, go ahead and check it out, particularly if you're looking to hire or if you or somebody else has been impacted by COVID, it's a good resource to help you find work potentially. And of course, the many Tableau resources that have been available over the past few months, the COVID-19 Data Hub. There's a list of all the virtual community events. DataFam Community Jam coming up this Thursday. So presentations by the community should be a great event. I will be speaking at that, so I'm looking forward to that. Tableau e-learning, that's still available. I'm not sure if the discount still applies though. If you're interested, I could find that out for you, let me know. If data could talk, so these are led by Andy Cotgrave, just talking about data and best practices and things going on in the data world. And of course, the community activities such as Makeover Monday, Workout Wednesday, Iron Quest, led by Sarah Bartlett, Prep and Data, Viz for Social Goods, Sports Viz Sunday, Project Health Viz. Pick your activity. There's tons of ways to get involved in the Tableau community. So with that, I went through announcements very quickly. And at this point, I will turn it over to Nicole, and she's going to lead us in some Kahoot time. So Nicole, I'll stop sharing.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Let me just go ahead and get this started. Okay. So on your phone or computer, whoops, there we go. Go to kahoot.it, or if you have the Kahoot app, go ahead and put in that PIN number. And then once we have some people in, then we can get started. And this is just going to be a really fun trivia relevant to our speaker today. Give everyone just another minute to get in there. All right, so we'll get started. I think you can still join once we start. So this is our London quiz. And we're starting off with an easy poll. Have you ever visited London? And if you have, then some of these might be a little bit easier for you. 8 people. All right. So yeah, this is going to be fun for you, I think. The rest of us, it might be a little bit of a challenge, but still fun. Starting with, what is the population of London? I have to say that putting this together, I learned a lot about London, so it was fun for me too. And all these questions, you have about 20 seconds to put your answer in. Okay, the correct answer was 8.9 million, and we have 4 people on that one. And I believe at the end of this, we should get a leaderboard. There we go. All right, Barak coming in. Hopefully I'm saying your name right at the top. Good job. And this is based on right answers as well as speed. How many bars are in the Houses of Parliament? There are restaurants, there are bars. They are not open to the public, but they are there. Eight. Michael
P.
To the top.
Taking the lead.
The world's first traffic light was in front of the House of Commons in London. What year was it installed? (1868). I know that was a tough one. I would definitely not have known that.
I thought you said you made these easier. I'm struggling here.
If you had seen, you know, the original quiz. London is home to more Indian restaurants than Mumbai or Delhi. True or false? True. I definitely need to get over there. Indian is one of my favorite foods. And Michael, staying at the top. How many breweries are there in London? Tucson has 21, in case you needed to know that trivia. Yeah, so 129. I was pretty impressed with that. Oh, new leader. Good job. Few more. Which is the busiest London Underground station? See, this is one of those tough ones, but I kept it in. Correct answer here is Waterloo, and we have Ninad staying at the top. Who is the only king or queen to have both been born and to die at Buckingham Palace? Good question for history buffs out there. I have to admit, that was not my strongest subject in school. Okay, King Edward VII.
I'm wondering if
coming up.
Nanad is from London. Is that a possibility?
If you are, you have to admit to that in the chat so that we know. Which is the underground stop for Abbey Road. This is a big, tourist destination, I think, for a lot of people, including Americans. So wanted to make sure that there were some things in here we recognized. St. John's Wood, yeah, we had quite a few people get that right. So when you're in London, Michael, good job, taking the lead. All right, just a couple more. London has 4 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Which of these is not one? Correct answer there was Big Ben. I actually quizzed my fiance on this last night and he guessed Royal Botanic Gardens too, but I have to say that's definitely a place I want to go now. It's on my list. Michael staying in first place. And finally, which of these London-based bands had an album on the Billboard chart for a record-setting 736 weeks? I grew up in a family of musicians, so I kind of had to include this one. Make my dad proud. Correct answer was Pink Floyd. And it was Dark Side of the Moon, actually. Yeah, so that still holds that record. All right, so let's see. Number 3, Lansing.
Lansing, nice work.
Number 2, Michael, good job.
Michael P.
Nanad. All right, did we find out if Nanad is from London or spent a lot of time there? And then Sarah and Bra as runners up. So good job. Hopefully we did justice to London for Sarah, and I will go ahead and turn it over so that we can get started on these presentations.
Thank you, Nicole.
Oh, from Phoenix.
That was
That's
really
amazing.
great, Nicole. Thank you. I did terribly for what it's worth.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen briefly so I can introduce our guest speaker today, and hopefully my audio has improved a little bit. Let me share my screen. Okay, so Sarah Bartlett, she's a BI and analytics consultant for Slalom. I believe she's worked for Slalom for how long, Sarah? 10 years now?
Oh, no, it's about 2 years.
About 2 years, okay. Yeah. And she leads the community initiative Iron Quest. And what was that started? 1-2 years ago, Sarah?
Last January, so
last
January 2019, yeah.
Okay, a great way to prep for IronViz and to just improve your data visualization skills. She's a Tableau Zen master and I believe a social media ambassador. Did I get that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
And she does all those things, co-leads the London Tug and presents for many, many other tugs around the world. Is that right? I believe you're kind of setting a record.
Yeah, making the most of COVID.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a good deal to be able to access all of these speakers from around the world. So it's one good thing about it. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Sarah Bartlett. I'll stop sharing and I'll let you take it away, Sarah.
Okay. Can you, okay, that's fine. Share my screen. Can you see my slides?
Yep.
Okay, brilliant. So I'll get started. So today I'm going to be talking about why you should enter IronViz. Just a quick intro from me. I think Christian's covered off all these points already. But if you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Twitter at Sarah Loves Data or my blog, sarahlovesdata.co.uk. So here's a few of my visualizations from my Tableau public portfolio. Some of them you may recognise. The one on the right, the Explore European Cities, was a viz that actually got me into the final of IronViz Europe in 2018. So I think, you know, that's why I'm here today talking about IronViz. It's all as a result of what happened there, and I'll go more into that in detail in a second. So just in terms of my professional background, I've been working in analytics for around 12 years. I've been a Tableau user for 6 years. I was introduced to Tableau at work. I didn't know what it was at the time. Back then I was producing everything in Excel. I thought Excel was amazing. And then I was introduced to Tableau, and I guess the rest is history. I've been consulting using Tableau for 3 years now. 2 of those I've been with Slalom, and then previously I was with another company. I founded IronQuest in January 2019 as a direct result of my IronViz Europe experience. So I ended up on stage in 2018, and I saw a lot of, you know, people saying things about IronViz, feeling that they didn't have the right skills, or they weren't good enough to enter. And that was what inspired me to launch IronQuest. Now, I'm not going to talk about IronQuest in a great detail today, but you can reach out to me or read about it more on my blog, because there's lots of blog posts up on there all about it. Now, you may be asking yourself, like, what is IronViz? You know, I've heard all this stuff about it, but I don't really know what it is. So if you go on the Tableau website, they say that IronViz is a data visualization contest, giving you the opportunity to compete with data rock stars from around the world. Now, to me, that doesn't really tell me much about what it is. So I'm going to give you a little more detail around what exactly this competition is all about. So this is a picture from the IronViz final last year in Vegas. So we had Hesham, Josh and Lindsay in the final there. And IronViz is this huge spectacle. It's run like a game show by Tableau. I mean, if you watch back the videos on YouTube, it really does feel like it's something that belongs on TV. But essentially the way IronViz works is that there's initially a feeder competition, and then the winners of those feeder competitions then go through to appear on stage. This year is slightly different because obviously we're not going to have an in-person conference this year. Everything's virtual, and as a result Tableau decided to run just a single feeder competition. So the top 3 placed people from that feeder will move through to the final. And for the first time this year, Tableau are actually offering cash prizes. So if you get first place in the final on stage, or the virtual stage if you like, you actually win $10,000, plus you get $5,000 to donate to a charity or non-profit of your choice. And all 3 people that end up on stage also get a free ticket to the Tableau conference next year. So there's really is a lot to be won this year for sure. Now the feeder is currently open, and I'll talk about them more in a second, and it's open till August the 4th. I believe the deadline is based on Pacific time, so you have until like whatever time it is in Seattle, and that also yeah, I mean, and the feeder competition, I should say, it involves designing a visualization. So the theme this year is health and well-being. So Tableau have kept it really, really broad. So basically you can go away, you can find any data you want related to health and well-being and produce something that even just mildly aligns to that topic. So it could be, you know, visualizing something that makes you feel happy. You kind of just make it your own. Tableau have purposely kept it really broad, just to keep your like options open. Now each person can enter once, and only the top 3 entries proceed to the final. Now with IronViz, it's up to you to find your own data. Tableau have a blog where they provide some kind of inspiration, and I'll share the link to that shortly, but it's really up to you to make of it what you will. Now, in terms of scoring, the scoring's slightly different for the onstage competition and the feeder competition. I'm going to say at this point, I'm actually a judge for IronViz this year, so please don't ask me for feedback or for me to share your work with me. I've actually muted the IronViz hashtag on Twitter to avoid me liking any visualization stuff. I've seen them coming through now, and I'm trying to ignore everything related to it because I have to be completely impartial. But for the feeder competition, you're scored on 3 things: so design, storytelling and analysis. Now each of these categories carries 10 points, so you're scored out of a total of 10 for each. the same scoring criteria applies on stage, but I think the actual marks are slightly different, but essentially you're still scored around these 3 elements. Now, in terms of what they are, so design is, you know, what your viz looks like. Is it well thought out? Are the colours good? You know, have you followed design principles? Storytelling is how everything flows together. Does your viz tell a compelling story? Are people drawn in? Do they learn something from it? And then the analysis is your use of charts. Are you drawing out those insights? Are you really getting into the data and finding those, you know, those key takeaways? So these are the 3 things that it's scored upon, and it's very, very, very hard to meet all 3. You can actually look back at previous year's entries and look at how they were scored, and you'll see that it's very rare that people actually hit high numbers across each of these categories. It's also, I was going to say, no, I'll move on, don't worry. Yeah, so in terms of how to enter, Tableau have a great blog on their website. You can find it on this link, and I will be sharing this deck with Christian and the team afterwards, so you can take that away. But essentially what you need to do is download Tableau Desktop. If you don't have a Tableau Desktop license, you can get a 14-day free trial. Then create a Tableau Public profile. This is really key because you'll need Tableau Public to share your work. Source some data, and I'll talk about this more again shortly in my presentation, but if you don't have data, you could create your own, especially with the topic of health and well-being. I mean, last month's IronQuest, we actually ran a quantified self round, so people just track data about themselves. So some people visualize data on their running or cycling or their sleep diaries and things like that. So you don't necessarily need to go and find publicly available data. As long as it's data you make public, then that's absolutely fine. There's some inspiration in the post by Jacob Olsufka, which is really, really good around how to find data. Once you've made your visualization, you need to publish it to Tableau Public, and then you also need to submit it on the link that Tableau provide. Now, I'd highly recommend you share your viz on social media as well, just to get, you know, more input and more visibility as well. There is, in case there's anyone on that's not from the US or the UK, there are some different rules and eligibility depending on what country you're from, so it's definitely worth checking that out, because there are some countries that simply can't enter due to like legal reasons with their laws in those particular countries. So do just make sure that you can enter. Okay, so question is, why should you enter? You probably think, you know, this is what's in it for me. So I'm going to talk you through a few things that I think that you might benefit from entering. First one is to have fun, and that's the most important part. It's all about having fun. Tableau's fun to use, and this is a great opportunity for you to actually have fun with it. Maybe, you know, do something different than you do at work, and focus in on a topic that you're really passionate about. It could be something, you know, with the health and well-being topic, it could be something that makes you feel good. It could be data that's really important to you. But I'd say definitely pick something that you're passionate about. You'll find it far easier to complete the process if it's something that you actually have an interest in. And yeah, it's a fun process. So, you know, have fun doing it. This is me when I was on stage in IronViz Europe in 2018, and I can certainly say it was a really, really fun experience. When I entered this competition, I never ever expected in a million years to end up on stage, but I'm really grateful for the opportunity. It led me to lots of different things. I've got to meet lots of different people, and it was just an all-round like great experience. So I'd say definitely have fun with it if you can. And the next tip would be to challenge yourself. So it's rare that we get an opportunity where we can really like start work on a big Tableau project in our own personal time. And I think this is one of those great opportunities you can take to actually do that. So it can be quite daunting. I mean, IronViz involves you putting out your best work. So it is quite a daunting proposition, but at the same time, it's a great challenge, and it's a challenge that you can rise up to. I've entered IronViz myself a couple of times now, and each time I've tried to challenge myself to try something new. For instance, in a visualization I built last year, I used what's it called? Python, sorry, my mind went back for a second. Python for the first time to actually source some data from Spotify using the Spotify API. And that was a completely different experience for me, and it meant that I actually learned a new skill. So it was definitely a challenge, but it was one that I enjoyed. So I'd say definitely maximize the opportunity to challenge yourself. Another opportunity it proposes is to improve your skills. So again, trying new things. If there's maybe elements of Tableau you've not tried before, this is a great opportunity to try them out. So maybe you want to get stuck more into mapping. Perhaps you don't get a chance to use mapping at all at work. This is a great opportunity to do things like that. As you know, there's new features coming out in Tableau all of the time. Like every quarter we get a new release. So there may be some new features that you want to try out in your work. So perhaps you haven't tried parameter actions or set actions yet, or you want to try transparent sheets or anything like that. This is a great opportunity to try out those things and just improve your skills. And you may well learn something in the process that you can then take back to your workplace. So I'd highly recommend you try something new. And I'd also say that regardless of where you are on your Tableau journey, we can all improve our skills, right? Even if you're at Zen Master level, like there's still opportunity for you to improve and learn new things. So this doesn't just apply to those people that are just starting out. The IronViz process gives us a great opportunity to network with others. And so what I mean by that is that, you know, it really, by participating in IronViz, it really helps you like step into the community and make yourself known. There's a great community out there. Just because you're here today, I'm sure you know about the community, but there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help you, both with your IronViz and further down the line, just help you improve your skills. And this is a great opportunity to tap into that network. You can also seek feedback from the community. So at the moment, there's a lot of people on Twitter that are offering their services and offering feedback calls. If you've done an IronViz and you want to get some feedback from it, you can reach out to any of these people and they'll be willing to help you. And this is the first time I've seen this in such a formalized way. I think in prior years it's all been quite informal, but this year people have gone to great lengths to book calls with people, probably because we've gone virtual, if you like, but a lot of people are having Zoom calls and, you know, filling up their calendars with these dedicated sessions to actually help people with feedback, which is great to see. Now, I would be doing this if I could, but again, I'm a judge and I can't, so I feel really left out that I can't participate in any of this, but I highly recommend you getting involved and getting feedback if you can. And if you have no one in your network, then of course reach out to these people. They really do know what they're talking about and they know what the judges are looking for as well. As I said before, yeah, IronViz gives you a chance to try something new. And it, not only just the technical, maybe you want to try something new in terms of design or data storytelling. It might be something that you don't get the opportunity to do much of, or perhaps you don't really dig into it enough. It could be that you participate in something like Makeover Monday, where you're producing a viz of every week, but perhaps you're building that viz in like 1 or 2 hours and you're not really like delving deep into anything in Tableau. I think IronViz offers a great opportunity to actually really experiment and try different things and see what works and see what doesn't, and you know, really get something going. Also, the IronViz experience helps you to stand out from the crowd and get noticed. So it could be that maybe you're looking for a new job. This could be a great opportunity to actually build up your portfolio and you know, have that visualization there that really stands out, and it can be a great talking point. I mean, I purposely did a viz last year for IronViz on profanity and hip hop because I thought it was such an obscure topic, and it really got people talking because it's something that I would never normally do, and it was a lot of fun as well. I'd also encourage you to share your work on Twitter. People love seeing the IronViz submissions come in. I think I mentioned at the beginning, I've actually muted the hashtag because I can't resist looking at them if I see them on my timeline. So there's a lot of IronViz work out there at the moment. Definitely share your work on Twitter. It gets a lot of engagement. I've included this tweet from Hesham from last year. So he actually won the feeder with this visualization. And as you can see, I mean, this tweet, it's got 312 likes, which is just insane. So definitely share your work on Twitter once it's complete. Also, it gives you a chance to build out your Tableau public profile. So this is my viz that I entered for IronViz Europe. It's still my featured viz to date. I love it. It's one of my favorite vizes I've ever done. And it's just nice to have that on my portfolio. So definitely, you know, make the most of the opportunity of adding something really cool to your Tableau public portfolio. And finally, there's an online gallery. So just by entering IronViz, you automatically get your viz put in this gallery. It'll be there forever. So your visualization will be alongside all the other entries for people to explore. Even if you're not entering, I'd highly encourage you to go and check out both the new gallery that will be coming once the deadline closes, but also the galleries from prior years, because they're super, super inspiring. There's so many great visualizations there you can get stuck into. This example here is a screenshot from one of the feeders 2 years ago, and even now some of those visitors just blow me away. So definitely go and check those out. And I think it's worth bearing in mind, you know, you're entering this for you. You're not entering to prove yourself to anybody else. You're just entering purely for you, to improve your skills, to create something new for yourself, to learn something new, to have fun and to challenge yourself. You're not entering it to try and compete against anyone. Yes, I know it's a competition, but it's like a marathon. You don't enter a marathon with the intention of winning. You enter just for taking part and for you, and to prove you can do something. And I think IronViz is very much like that. I don't think many people enter this competition with the intention of winning. I know I certainly didn't. In fact, it's almost the best place to come in IronViz sometimes is in second place, because it means you get all the glory without having to go through and do the last bit on stage. I saw this tweet today from Liam Spencer. I think this, you know, really brings these points home. So he's just entered IronViz for the first time. He learnt new things, he made new friends through feedback, he did something he hadn't done before, and he made himself proud. So as far as he's concerned, he's won, you know, and anything else that happens as a result of this is a bonus. Tableau do have a tagline. They say, you win or you learn and you can't lose. And I think that's absolutely spot on. So there are some myths around IronViz, which I'd like to go through quickly, and some misconceptions that I often hear. So the first one is, I'm not a Tableau expert, so therefore I can't enter. And that is absolute nonsense. So the IronViz competition that I entered in 2018 was actually won by a guy called Klaus from Germany. He's actually a Zen master now, but at the time he'd been using Tableau for less than a year. He only started using it to enter Makeover Mondays. He had no other experience than that, and he went on and won the competition. Similar story, last year Hesham entered the IronViz feeder after using Tableau for less than 6 months. So he actually learnt Tableau so he could join the data school as part of the information lab in London, and he entered IronViz for a bit of fun, and he actually went on to win the global competition. It's quite a funny story, because when he won the feeder, he didn't really know what he'd got himself in for. He didn't really know what IronViz was. He just entered, you know, just to prove himself. And yeah, and he went right through to the end. And finally, Kevin Flerledge, who you're probably familiar with, Tableau Zen master as well. When he first started out about 2 years ago, he made it into the top 3 of the books and literature feeder it was a viz on the Lorax. And at that time, he'd only been using Tableau for a few months. And not only did he make it into the top 3, but he was featured as, I think, best newcomer as well. So it just goes to show that you don't need to be an expert to enter. Another misconception I commonly hear is that there's no point entering because I don't think I will win. Again, it's absolute nonsense. Plenty of people enter the competition year after year after year without any hope of winning, and they never get to the final, but they still continue entering because of the challenges that it poses, and for all the reasons I've mentioned already. I think this is really key, that you just, it's the taking part that counts, not the end result. And then the final misconception is, can't find a data set, so therefore I can't enter. So when I entered IronViz Europe, the one that I got through to the final for, I spent probably about 3 weeks, I'd say, just Googling European cities, which was the theme, and just getting nowhere. I was finding no data, just getting no inspiration. I didn't know what to do. I almost gave up. It was only because I found a website that I thought had quite interesting data on it, but it wasn't in a friendly format that I entered. So basically I messaged my friend Lorna Eden, Lorna Brown now, so she's got married, and actually asked her for her help, so to see if she could scrape a website for me using Alteryx to get some data. And thankfully she did, and she provided some data back to me not long after I asked her, and it was that data I actually took forward and used to build my visualization, which goes to show, you know, I wouldn't have found the perfect data set for that biz, and it wouldn't have happened had I not asked Lorna for her help. And then again, like last year when I entered the Viz for the hip hop and the profanity in hip hop, again, I built a lot of that data set out myself. I was looking at song lyrics and counting like the number of swear words in those song lyrics and essentially building out my own data set. It wasn't a huge data set, it wasn't complex, but it got me into the top 10, so you know, it was enough. So if you can't find a data set, by all means create your own, and that's especially true this year with the theme health and well-being. There's nothing stopping you using data that you've collected about yourself, so maybe on your health or your sleep habits or anything that relates to health and well-being. So lastly, I'd say good luck. I hope you can all enter, and I look forward to seeing your submissions, and I'll talk to you about them afterwards after I've completed the judging process. But if you want to reach out to me, here are all my details, and you can visit my website, you can email me. But yeah, it's been great, and thank you for inviting me to talk at the TUG today.
Thank you. So we do have one question so far in the chat, and just a reminder to everyone that if you do have a question, please put it in the Q&A. So Lansing asks, are dashboard actions, tooltips, etc. part of the scoring, or is it the judging based on the face value of the Viz only?
No, they're all part of the judging, definitely. So we'll definitely be looking at things like tooltips that they formatted, and I think some of those things like dashboard actions can really help bring your story to life. So definitely like maximize them if you can. It's definitely all considered.
Thank you.
I have a question that I'll just ask real time here. So for Sarah, for those of us who maybe haven't started yet, we're about a week out from the deadline, yet are interested in participating, particularly maybe after watching your presentation, what would your recommendation be for those of us who are starting late?
I'd say think of something you're passionate about and start from there. Just for context, it's definitely not too late. Last year when I built the visualization on profanity and hip hop, I actually stayed up all night one night and just finished it in an evening. Didn't go to bed. I finished it at about 7 a.m. Because I'd spent so long just messing around, researching, going off down rabbit holes, reading about hip hop, that I didn't really get much of my viz done. So I had to do it in like a 12-hour session. So it's definitely not too late. I'd say pick something you're passionate about. You know, focus on finding some data, even if that means creating your own data, and just start from there. There's definitely still time.
Thank you.
It's okay. Any other questions? I would say as well, you just go onto Twitter or LinkedIn if you can, and just have a look at the hashtag to see the kind of entries that have been submitted so far. They may inspire you with some topics, for sure.
Thank you. That's a very good tip. All right, last chance for questions. Anything else?
Cool.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for
Truly
having me.
appreciate it.
That's okay.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me share my screen once again and we'll move right along. All right, so we're going to move into a section of the meeting called Tableau Tips in 10 minutes. And I mentioned this briefly earlier, but one of the benefits of these virtual meetings is we get to access speakers from all over the world, Sarah being an example, but we're also trying to keep sort of a distinctive Tucson feel to these meetings. And so we have 3 local speakers who are just going to spend the next 10 minutes apiece just diving into some Tableau tips and tricks that they've uncovered in the last few weeks, months, and they're going to be sharing those with us. These are things from beginner to advanced level. So yeah, we just want to take this as an opportunity to give local participants of our TUG some time to share and get in front of the group. So with that, I'll go ahead and introduce the speakers. And the way this is going to work is each of these 3 speakers are going to have 10 minutes apiece. At the tail end, after all 3 of those presentations are done, you'll have a chance to ask a question of any one of those speakers. So just like you did for Sarah's presentation, enter any questions in the Q&A panel, and we'll get to those after all three of the presentations are done. Phil Belone is going to be our first presenter. He works at Roche Tissue Diagnostics. He's been working in IT and in the data space for quite a few years across many different industries: public safety, government, engineering, and education. He was born in Arizona. He's a huge Wildcats fan, bear down. Raised in New Mexico, and is a Native American of the Navajo tribe. Nathalia Garay Castillo is a BI analyst at the U of A. She's a former financial analyst. She uses her finance and business knowledge and her expertise in data transformation analysis and visualization. She's a lifelong learner. She enjoys collaborating with others using Tableau, and she's also a leader for the Tucson user group. And Kathy McKelvey also works at Roche Tissue Diagnostics as a process data analyst. She troubleshoots data issues, finds root causes, and creates data stories for analysis using Tableau. Team here at Roche, and she performs analysis on one of her instruments using Tableau R and R Shiny tools. Her longtime goal is to be a data scientist and to be able to create dashboards that predict what's going to happen next. So those are our three speakers. So now that we've done introductions, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Phil. I'll stop sharing, and Phil, you can go ahead and run with it. Go ahead, Phil. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and share your screen.
Hi, everyone. Everyone can hear me. You can hear me, correct?
Yeah, we got you.
Excellent. Again, my name is Phil Belone. Thank you. I'm honored to present today. I've been at Roche since February of 2019. I'm presenting a recent developed dashboard for our supply chain department to provide insight on available labor and machine hours associated with available capacity. Pardon me for a second. I'm just rearranging the tools for the Zoom meeting. So I'm going to provide three tips within 10 minutes. The first just came about in our pre-planning for the meeting today, and it's going into the Viz and actually setting grid view. So some of you are very you like everything to be polished and all of your different dashboards to be have the same height in your elements and your primary viz. So you can enable dashboard by just grid by just enabling the show grid button. And I like to use this, so if I want to match the different title sizes for each of the viz, I have a visual reference that allows me to set them all at equal length. So my first request was, I was developing this dashboard, was to give and provide a way to aggregate to different date levels. Out of the box, Tableau provides date levels on the y-axis, but they're kind of difficult to get to. So as you can see, I aggregated down to the day level. From the user standpoint, it's kind of difficult for them to navigate. Here we see the year level. And that's available on the y-axis if you did not know that functionality. So the first request was to set a date level, and not only set a date level, but have it available in a filter. So what I did was I first had to create a parameter to capture that. So I went in and I created the date level parameter. So I created the parameters that's associated to the level of aggregation or level of detail. So I've created a parameter, which is a string for year, quarter, month, week, and day. One of the things that was missing, as you can see on the original dashboard, is it doesn't have the weeks, and that was a big request that led me down to develop developing this, you can see that it goes to months, but there are no weeks available out of the box. So again, I have the parameter that I created. I then showed that parameter, of course, but I have the parameter, but I need that parameter to do something. Okay, so I created, oops, pardon me. So I had to create a date level filter so I could filter based on those parameter values selected. So I created a date level filter. And the date level filter takes in the parameter value and with the case statement. And then when that parameter value is selected, it gives the associated level of aggregation. For example, if year is selected, it'll aggregate the all the data of plan order date associated with that year and pull that information in. So once I created that calculated field, I then dragged it into the filters, and that allowed the user to navigate to the parameter control and aggregate based on the different levels. So you're probably wondering, well, why isn't it working here? So I had the original setup, which was configured to take the plan date, and you see that it's aggregated down to the day. So I had to go to include the date level filter into the columns. Okay, so now you can see that once that date level filter calculated field is added here, the date level selector will now aggregate at the parameter value selected. So that's my second tip. So now we have this dashboard that evolved into including the ability to aggregate at a date level selected, month, now included weeks. But since we were projecting into the future with capacity, and since the common user or the person viewing this couldn't quickly and easily identify the current week, the next request was, hey, can I get a highlight on the current week so I know where I am? So I accommodated that request by setting another value. I'll go to that dashboard. So I had to get somehow identify which is the latest week, color that week, but first identifying it. So I created the date level filter, get the latest date level filter value. So pardon me for a second. Which I called today. Sorry for the delay. I'm going to increase the size on this. So to identify the latest day, I had to develop a parameter when selected to color the value of the aggregate value equal to today's aggregate value. So this takes the parameter, if the parameter of week or of year is selected, then compare today's year to all the data that corresponds to that year as by plan order date. Okay. So I'll be happy to share these calculations also if you're curious about them. So the end result for that is on selecting the current date level, you're always going to get the highlighted associated date level. I have July, and for the day, you'll get the highlighted day here. Prior to that, some formatting was involved, but I essentially, once I created that current day value, I created a sheet here specific to those values to capture the date level filter. Once I captured the date level filter, I added that as a separate sheet to the dashboard. So this is the sheet that corresponds to the date level filter values available. And the original sheet will have the original x-axis values hidden. So going over that again, I hid the x-axis values. I created the list of all values. I colored that value by my calculation called today to bring in the current level of aggregation. Once I did that, I dragged that value into the dashboard, did some formatting to add some space so they line up. Once I was in there, I hid the x-axis header, and now I have my viz that shows and highlights the current date level filter. So those were the 3 tips I wanted to present today. I will now turn the presentation over to Nathalia Castillo.
Actually, before you go, we do have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
Could you just once again go over the grid tip?
Okay. Yeah, in dashboard, you have the drop down. You just highlight dashboard. It's the 4th value over, and you just check or uncheck show grid. When you publish the workbook, publish your workbook, it's not going to include the grid. So it's simply there for you to reference and also see the size. You can format by the amount of grids you'd like.
Thank you. And if that didn't quite answer your question, Pratik, just let me know. And then he had another question as well. How can we remove the border from parameter filter on dashboard?
I'm sorry?
Is there a way to remove the border from the parameter filter on the dashboard?
A way to remove the parameter?
The border? So a formatting question, I believe, the border on the parameter filter.
Okay, on which, I'm sorry, I'm not following.
You know, I'm not, would you mind actually clarifying that in the Q&A? Just to make sure that we're answering your question correctly.
Yeah, please do.
We can maybe, oh, here we go, we got it.
So for example, in elements, we have hours filter. Can we remove the border?
Hours filter.
So the border along the drop down, maybe?
Oh, around here, is that what's being requested, or?
I think so. I know I haven't found a way to do that just around the entire.
Yeah, and you know, I've never ever had that question. So Christian, I'll pass that on to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. You could bring up maybe the edit parameter
Yeah.
section, Phil, and just show what's available.
Yeah, I would definitely
format parameters.
Either type. I would use a slider if that's an option, or maybe a single view list. That maybe is another option. More more than likely I use the single value list, or in some cases slider, but yeah, I haven't come across that request. That's interesting.
If you go to format, does it have anything like that? The way that it would for a regular chart?
I don't personally. Are you asking if I could pull something up recently
Like
that I've developed?
if you go on the drop down here and just click on format filter or format parameters, sorry, does it give you it already doesn't have a border, but yeah, it's just for the like around the outside of it, but not the drop down part.
Yeah, no, I think you can increase the size of the border, but no.
I think what may be a workaround, and this is dependent on your version that you're using, is just using a parameter action to drive a parameter selection. So you can maybe have a worksheet that has your parameter values that it is just text. And we couldn't do this, Phil, because we're not on the right version, but you could remove any borders or any other formatting associated with that sheet and just allow a user to select the text that updates the parameter and then updates your chart. If I understand your question correctly, that may be one option, but nothing we could do here with the 2019 1 version that we're using, that Phil has up on the screen. So
there's something else you could do. Can I chime in?
Yeah.
Just if you had a drop-down parameter like you had before, you can actually like reduce the size right down, so you literally only see like the drop-down arrow. So I've seen people do that before. Where they make it really, really small, so you could put like some text and then have like just the arrow part as the drop-down, and then that will essentially remove the border because you wouldn't be showing it.
Yeah. So what she's saying is if you were to remove the title of that parameter and then change the width of that from like, I don't know what that is, 150 to like 5, so, maybe?
Yeah, so if you come out, I think you need a name in that. You have to have a name, but you can hide it on the actual like dashboard.
Can I do a space?
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't? No. Has to be.
Just put anything.
I'll just put one.
We're doing live Tableau here, people.
And then on the drop down, just click show title. So you just basically take the tick off that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just select the side and just like with your mouse and like the border on the right and just drag it to the left. So just
I got you.
Grab the side of the box.
So I'm using
on the right hand side. So
the month parameter, Phil?
Understood. But I'm
it's distributing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna drive this all the way boom to there.
I don't know if it's gonna work because it's in a container.
Yeah, it is in a.
It's gonna keep. If you had it floating on its own, you can do it. I promise.
Yeah. I believe you.
No, that's a good suggestion.
Still not going to work, I don't think, because it needs to be. Could you make it floating using the little drop-down arrow?
Yeah, Nod's suggestion is, I think, the way to go. You use the edit width.
There you go. Yeah.
Yep.
And now just try and grab the side of that. It's a bit fiddly, but the other way. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. And then you can just resize that, and essentially, just so you get that arrow that you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tiny, thin little arrow.
Yeah. Customer's always right?
You're almost there.
Oh,
there you go.
There you
now,
go.
if you click that,
beautiful.
It opens up, so you could write something in a text box next to it, and then you don't have the box.
Okay. Very cool.
Hey, we're all about making sure the questions get answered on the Tucson Tug. So
that was awesome.
Hopefully that was helpful. And
sometimes you
worthwhile.
have to get a bit hacky with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Phil, I mean that the way you kind of hacked the x-axis there to get the formatting, I think we had one comment saying that was extremely helpful. I think it's cool when you showed it to me earlier, because, and maybe Sarah can chime in again, there's really, in terms of formatting the axis just sort of out of the box or by itself, you can't really do that. So you have to find a way to create another sheet, overlay it like that. I think.
Yeah,
So,
it can be quite frustrating sometimes.
yep, very helpful.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you, Phil.
Oh, we do have
Okay.
one more question, sorry. Do you know if there is a way to suppress filters when you convert the dashboard to a PDF?
Suppress filter. That's a question. I've never had to do that. I've never had that use case before. Maybe you can weigh in on this, Christian.
Yeah, I guess I've always printed them just with the filters, but I know it can look a little wonky printing them with the filters. Perhaps there's I don't know.
I would create a duplicate dashboard and exclude the filters for if that's something that they want. Pretty quick and easy to do. Just remove the filters and then have one presentation mode that they'd like to use to present the content. But then how do you aggregate? Maybe you could join those two dashboards so you could do your filtering in one and then print from the second. Yeah, that's how I would work around that.
All right, so we're over our 10 minutes, but I think it was worth it. Nicely done,
I
Phil.
think so too.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's not always easy getting Tableau desktop up live while a bunch of people are watching. You did well, thank you. And let's turn it over to Nathalia.
Thank you very much. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Phil. Now I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, or good night, depending on where you are. My name is Nathalia Garay Castillo. I am a business analyst for the University of Arizona, and today I'm going to talk to you about creating hex maps for geographical data. Now, as Christian already mentioned, I just joined the Tucson Talk team this month, so I was asked to introduce myself to the community. So things that you need to know about me: I am a BI analyst for the University of Arizona. I've been at the UA since 2016. I started using Tableau last year, and it was just personal interest. In my department, we have another BI tool that we use, but I found myself being stuck creating visuals. I didn't have the flexibility, and it was a little bit frustrating. So I started to use Tableau instead, and then just take screenshots or do separate reports. And so that's how I started using Tableau. Now this year, with all the pandemic and everything that happened, I found myself with extra time. So I decided I wanted to get more serious about Tableau. So I enrolled to the free e-learning, and I also signed up for the desktop specialist exam, which was also 50% off. And I'm happy to report that early this month, I passed and I received that certification. And then finally, and perhaps most importantly, like you, I am learning through these virtual meetings. I have attended meetings in Australia, in Europe, Asia, South America, and all over the US. So it's been a lot of fun, and I encourage you to do the same. All right, so into the presentation. What are hex maps? As you can see, hex maps are simply tile maps that use hexagons as the shape. So instead of having the regular size and the regular shape, in this case of a US state, you just have a standardized hexagon. Now you might be wondering, why would you use a map like this? Now, the first reason is, I think it's a very easy way for you to elevate a visualization that you have. Here, I took this screenshot yesterday from NPR website. They use a hex map to track the daily change of cases in the US. So as you can see, it looks really sophisticated, and it's a good way to tell a story. And number two, and perhaps the main reason why you should consider using hex maps, is because of the size of states. So if you want to include Alaska and Hawaii, they will take overtake your canvas. Like here on this side, like Alaska is half the size of the US, so it just takes a lot of space. And then what happens is the smaller states in the Northeast region, if there's any trends, it's very difficult to find them. The other option is you can use circles or shapes to show the size of your measure, but in this case, you're gonna have to exclude Alaska and Hawaii, because again, it will overtake your map. So what do you need to create a hex map? First of all, we're gonna talk about a US map. So you need a column that has state information. You also need to download a hexagon image and then save it on your Tableau repository folder. And then the third thing is you need to have a data set that includes the new coordinates for your states. See, when you have a state column, Tableau already finds what the real coordinates are, and that's how it creates the map. But now we want to override those coordinates and use our own. And the good thing is you do not have to create those coordinates yourself. There is plenty of data sets out there that includes that information. Okay, so now I'm gonna jump into the demo. I'm gonna do the demo really quick, so I would not recommend you follow what I'm doing. Just pay attention and maybe come back and just pause and do it yourself if you're interested. All right, so here in Tableau, I have the COVID-19 data that Tableau made available. It's really interesting and it's a lot of fun. So I also recommend you look into that if you want to find some data set that you want to practice on. And then the second data set is the hex map. And this is where the coordinates are coming from. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna drag the second data set. I am using Tableau 2020.2. So I'm not creating a join, I'm creating a relationship. But it works very similar. So for my main data set, I'm gonna select province/state. And then from my hex map data set, I'm gonna select state. All right, so I have the relationship there. And here you can see the new coordinates for each state. Right? So now it's just start building the map. And what I like about this data set is that it's very intuitive. I have this field column, and I'm literally just gonna put it in my columns. Then I have rows, put them into rows. Now I have my data point. I'm gonna break down by state. So I'm gonna go into my main data set and find my field and drag it into detail. Okay. So now there seems to be a map in there. There are a lot of nulls. The reason for it is because the COVID-19 data is for the entire world. So there's some states and provinces in other countries outside the US. So those are the nulls. And so for that reason, I'm just gonna go ahead and remove those nulls. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on the y-axis, click edit, and then I'm gonna reverse it. Perfect. Now I'm gonna hide it. Don't see that. And I'm gonna make it bigger right here. Right, so that looks much closer. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drag the field that is gonna tell me the daily cases into the color. So daily cases is actually this column called difference. So I'm gonna drag it into color. And here it's a little difficult to see, but there's some states like, you know, New York, makes sense, that is much darker than other states. All right, so the next thing, I don't want to use circles, I want to use the hexagons. So to do that, first I need to change my mark to shape. And once I'm in shape, I'm gonna select custom. Now, this is not in Tableau by default. You need to put it here. And the way you do that is you need to go to the Tableau repository folder. And by default, you're going to find it under Documents, My Tableau repository, Shapes, and I decided to save it under Custom. And so then I found this image online. So that's the one I downloaded. Then hit refresh, and then it was here in Tableau. So that's what I'm gonna use. Okay. I'm gonna make the size bigger. Okay. It's looking better. Now, what I want to do is I want to label each hexagon. So to do that, I am gonna take from my hex dataset abbreviation and drag it into label. Okay, so I can see a few labels, but not all of them. So I need to fix that. So I'm gonna go click here on label, under alignment. I'm gonna do middle, center, and there you go. And then this step, it's very important, and I always forget about it, which is you need to allow labels to overlap other marks. Right. So with that, you have the labels for each state. Next thing I'm going to do is get rid of these grid lines because I don't really want to see them there. So to do that, I'm going to click, right-click, Format, go here to Lines, and then just select None for grid lines and None for zero lines. Okay. And just like that, in less than 10 minutes, you can create a hex map for your dataset. And that's all I have. I'm gonna pass it now to Kathy.
Okay. That was cool, Natalia. I'm going to try that later on today or this week. That was really neat.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. I'm Kathy, and let's see, I'll share my screen. Hopefully you can see it. Yep, looks like I'm sharing. So I'm in manufacturing, and we do a lot of analysis with instruments, but we also have a document change management team. And with our documents is all our specifications, and they, you know, through assembly of the instruments, there are non-conforming parts that happen, there's out of specifications, there's exceptions. And so we have these documents that have to get under control that will be changed, and they go through different phases of our change management. So I'm gathering, Christian, you can see my screen and everything set?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, cool. So I created a dashboard for this team. They wanted to find out, you know, where are all our documents and how long have they been in the different phases, because their job is to monitor and get these documents through our workflow approval process. And just know our document management team in Tucson is new. They just joined together in June, so they don't have a whole lot of documents under control right now, but that's why you see the numbers are relatively low. But this is just a summary right now of the documents that they're monitoring, and it just kind of shows them where their documents have been. It's more, this is a summary dashboard that shows that they at one time had one document in implementation review, and it was on time. So one of the things that we built with this is kind of a traffic light key indicator for time. So you can see we use the red for on time, yellow is warning, and then late is red. And so, and these are all of the phases that the documents need to go through. And so again, in pending at one time, they had 8 that were on average 56 days, 0.5 in the pending stage before they got moved to the quality review stage. And so this is what they were looking at. What I wanted to show you is, so if they want to get more information on this summary, then they will just click here and go to a new dashboard that gives them more detail. So that's kind of like a drill down dashboard. And so there's always that opportunity or, you know, action that you can create on the dashboard to drill down. So once we drill down, they're like, okay, well, where are our current documents at? We want to know currently what we have in process. So again, they have 15 pending, and they have 4 of them that are in quality review and 2 of them in design change. And in showing them this dashboard, question came up pretty quickly. Well, can you tell me what documents that you're talking about? Like, what is online? You know, what is the one that's online that's 5 days on average been sitting there? And so a colleague of mine shared with me how I can put more detail on the tooltips without having to do a new dashboard and a drill down dashboard. But there's a way to just kind of create a sheet and embed the sheet into the tooltip. And then that way they can see all their documents. So I thought it was kind of neat. So you can see here. So if they're looking, you know, well, these are the 15 that you need to be moving out of pending, and get in touch with the workflow approval process to see how you can get it to quality review. Fortunately, they do know these document numbers really well, so they already know like who, they already know the data behind it a lot, that 88412, who the originator is and who the requester is and who the change analyst is. So they're just looking for just what the document numbers are so that they can kind of get a handle on them and maybe go into their document management system and look up more detail about it. So that's basically the tip that I thought was really interesting, was you don't really necessarily always have to do a drill down dashboard. You can create sheets and provide more detail on your tooltip. The limitation to it is that I can't get any more information from what's on the tooltip. So I can't like drill down, I can't go into, you know, CO 88412 and find out who is the originator or the requester. But again, it's just kind of a quick, easy way to get more detail on your tooltip. So I'm going to show you how this works, and also some other workarounds for it. So again, here is the current sheet. And I created this change status sheet, and this just has all of the statuses and all of the change document numbers, and also the KPIs. So it's just a sheet with everything on it. Just put everything on it. And then you go over to the sheet that you want to filter, and you go into tooltips. And here you can do insert sheet. And it's nice to change this number to a little larger, so that you have more, it's easier to read. It filters on all the fields. So it takes all these values up here and it filters automatically for you, which is really nice. So then you just hit okay. So now when I go over it, it'll show me what is late and what is in pending. And over here, like, what is an implementation review that's late? What is an implementation review? So it's kind of nice. Here's like 2 here. I like how it does the color scheme automatically, and it's so simple to do. You just create a sheet and you put everything you want on it, and then when you do the embedding of it, it automatically just, you know, grandfathers in the filters for you. And one thing that you'll notice is over here, it will add this tooltip automatically to the filter. So that's basically the tool that or the tip I wanted to show you, because I thought it was really easy to do. But one thing else is, if I'm going to remove this tooltip, so say you actually do want to, see, I thought I had it in here. Let's see. So actually, you can go to Dashboard Actions and do Add an Action. I already have it, so I can edit it. And here I can do, in this dashboard, I can call the change status DCO sheet, and I can filter on all the fields. And so if I now click here, oh, it was working. I should get this show thing here. Hang on a second. Okay. Oh, I should get see more detail on here, but this is a way to do it to, I wonder why it's not working. It's weird. On your tooltip, you should see something at the bottom that says see more detail. And I had that working. So see more detail. And then it would just automatically go to the change status with just the DCOs that are in that column. I'm not sure why that's not working now, but there's a lot of different, oh, here's one. Good. Let me move. Let's see, this is up. It's down below. Let's see here. You see that C? So you might see it below, but I'm not finding, I can't get to it. There's all right, so let me do this. Let me try this instead of doing it by menu. Action. If I select. Now when you select it, it goes into there. That's another way. In this way, they can get some more information if you want to add originator or requester or any other information on the tooltip. So you could do it either way. One is if you don't really want a whole lot of, you just want to see, you know, the change numbers and you don't want to get the rest of the detail of it, you can just do the embed the sheet as a tooltip. Or if you really did want to go to that sheet so that they can get some more information, that's kind of nice. So here I'll go to this sheet and you can see these two here. And you can add, that way they can do it either way. That's pretty much my tooltip. I don't know if there's any questions.
Very cool. Thank you, Kathy. Any questions for Kathy or Nathalia at this point? All right. Well, again, I truly appreciate you, Kathy, Nathalia, taking the time, and Phil as well, out of your day to present. I know there was some useful things shared, and yeah, thank you once again. Okay, so I'll go ahead and share my screen one more time. We have one more slide, and we're just going to wrap up, and just some brief information on our upcoming August meeting. And I'll let Nicole go ahead and introduce what we have coming in store next month.
Yes, thank you, Christian. So our next meeting, which will of course be virtual, will be Wednesday, August 19th at 10 a.m. We have two really great speakers that we're really excited about having. So Shaylin Delgado, who is local to Tucson, and she will be presenting on survey data viz best practices and kind of really specific to some of the intricacies of doing survey data in Tableau. And then Erin Waldron will be joining us. She's based out of St. Louis, and I actually saw her speak at the Tableau conference last year, and she gave one of my favorite presentations probably of either of the conferences that I've been to. And she presents on dashboard best practices, and she'll be showing some of the kind of technical aspects of making sure that your dashboard is set up to be in line with those best practices. So we're really excited to have both of them, and it's going to be a really wonderful tug. We hope to see all of you there, or at least see you on the Zoom. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. I think it'll be a good combination of theory and practice with those two next month. And yeah, a couple really great presentations. So see you all there. Thank you guys for attending, and have a great day.
Bye.
See ya. Thank you, Sarah, again.
Pratik, please reach out to us on Twitter or email. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.